Okay, so we're going to take the frame out and you're going to build the frame from the bottom piece and put the top piece aside. This is the bottom. Also notice that this is the front of it with the two little ridges. So put this aside. This is your standoffs and screws. The first thing we're going to do is mount the motors. And when you mount the motors, you also have to mount the landing gear at the same time. Since we are going to be using a CC3D flight controller, that makes motor 1 in this top left corner clockwise. So this is the clockwise motor. You go by these markings right there, the rotor rotation, and the black nut needs to be installed here. Okay, and that makes the threading counterclockwise so that it's self-tightening. All right, the boxes will be marked also, as this will be marked as a clockwise box. This is your bag with your landing gear and your battery strap in it. Inside the bag is not only the landing gear, but the screws. Use these screws to mount your motors, not the motor screws. Okay, installing the landing gear and the motor at the same time and getting it through is one of the most challenging parts of the build. So the trick is to put your screw through this hole, line it up underneath. If you need a friend, grab a friend to hold the motor while you get it in. Once you get one screw in, you can get a couple of turns on it. Then you can line up the other ones. Don't tighten any of them till you got them all in, and then tighten. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to hold this. The motor, see how the wires are straight now, and then kind of just make sure you kind of get that first hole. See how this will trick you because there's a little gap there, but get the first, make sure this is in the middle. That's a big thing to line up. And then see how I have, see now I'm getting tricked because there's the hole. So, all right, so there it is. Now I'm gonna hold that and try to hold it in location. Then I'm gonna take, and then you want this like this. You can do it this way. Just make sure you do all yours the same way. Is this going this way? Or is it going back towards the copter? However you do it, just do them all the same so it looks nice. Okay, so I'm gonna take this and I'm going to, well, let's set this down so I can reline it up. I'm gonna take this and get it ready. Okay, so now I've got the screw in there and I'm just kind of holding it on. Now I'm grabbing the frame and I know that it's gonna be lined up with the wires going towards the center. I'm gonna line up my hole and then my shaft in the middle, and then see that lines up the hole pretty good. And then just kind of touch them together, grab your wrench, and then start and try to get it just a couple of turns on it. Mine just fell out. So let me see if I can turn this where you can see it. Okay. So I'll just get a couple of turns on it. And you might have to move the motor a bit, but once you've got it, there it is, I got it. So now it's hanging freely. See that? So now I can just simply get it back where it's supposed to be and line my holes up. And then put the screw in each one a little bit. There they are. Right there. See that? There it is. Okay, so you might want to get the screw in across right here. Next, it's nice to take your screwdriver or wrench and then drop it in, and then once it then you can feel it when it's lined up and get a couple turns on it. So see, once you've done the first motor, the rest aren't so bad. There it goes. I just felt it, I think. No, I didn't. So just keep working it. There it is. Okay, and I'm going to tighten it, but I'm leaving it loose so that I have play for the other screws to fit in before I tighten down. Okay, see? Okay, now it's easy. They just drop right in. Yep, there we go. Now when I'm upside down, I had to double check myself that I was putting the black motor, black top motor, on the far left, the clockwise motor over here. So I double checked, I turned it over. I don't know, you may need to do that, you may not. So I hate when I meant the motor's backwards. I have to do all this craziness again. Okay, so we'll put that in. Okay, they're all in now. I can make sure it's nice and centered and tighten them up nicely. Whoops, camera bounce. Now, you may want to, once you get it tightened down, I would take each one out, one at a time, Loctite it, and put it back in. The only issue with the Loctiting is don't let it get on this plastic. Loctite eats plastic. So just get it on the tip of the screw, only. Slide it through, then wipe off the excess thread locker. I don't know that it has to be done on this. They usually stay in pretty good, but if you want it real solid, that might be the way to go. Okay, so now they're pretty good and tight. I do it twice, like I'm tightening change the tire, so that because once you do one, it loosens the other. So okay, and here we go. There she is, nice and installed. The wires are pointing where I want them, ready to go. Okay, once your motors are installed, double check that the black motor, the clockwise motor, is your top left. Here's the front, there's the top left. Now we're going to go ahead and put on the ESCs. This is what your PDB should look like once you've plugged the ESCs in. Make sure you get all your positive and negatives right. It's eventually going to be double-sided taped right in this area. We want to center the flight controller, so we'll kind of work that in a minute. Now the big thing is make sure that you plug, there's two wires that come with this that look like this. You only need the one, and you're going to plug that into the 5 volt. If you look closely, one says 12 and one says 5. Make sure you put the positive and negative right and the 5 volt. Then this end goes into channel 6 of the motor things, and there's also on the side here, you can see where it says positive and negative, and the negative goes to the bottom on channel 6. So that's what powers your flight controller. Now if you put it in the 12, you're going to see smoke out of that flight controller. So don't put it in the 12 volt.
Negative on the bottom.
Negative on the bottom. Yep, now there's power to your flight controller. Now we're going to go through and we're going to plug each motor into its corresponding slot. Motor 1 will go here. Motor 1, 2, 3, and 4.
This is in 1.
Okay, make sure you untangle. The reason we don't have these
This is 1.
zip tied down or shrinked is because we're going to have to fire it up and make sure our motors are going the proper direction. If not, you have to change 2 of these wires, any 2, reverse them, and it will go the other way. Okay, so he's going to go ahead and plug in the motors, and then we're going to start taping everything down, the flight controller down, and then we're going to run a test. Okay, now here's your satellite receiver for your DXE Spectrum radio. You plug this, comes with that cable, and you go ahead and plug it in there. Don't force it. Make sure you get the pins in the right direction. Look at the pins to see if they're on the top or the bottom, and then look at the holes to match it up. Now the other end is going to go right into the front of the flight controller, right into that bottom one right there. before you tape this down, make sure the arrow is pointing to the forward where those two little slats are. And then make sure you center it, like put the tape on, and then slowly get a friend, stand up over it and make sure it's even, and then put her down. Before final placement, you need to make sure that the flight controller is behind these two holes so that you can fit the pillars in, and it slightly overlaps the PDB a hair. Next, put a piece of Velcro that's in your kit and there so that you can mount the satellite on top of the flight controller. Okay, and then you've got a nice and neat everything in a row. You're going to have quite a bit of wire left over, and the trick is to bundle it up together and put everything under the speed controller right before you zip tie it. One of the things you want to make sure is that you do not let these wires touch the motor and rub up against them. So you might need to pull them through a little bit there, or do a little bit of adjustment to get it where it's just perfect so that it will not rub. Okay, this is what everything should look like before you're going to go into Libre Pilot to configure. I've already put the pillars on, but I don't want you to do that. I'm going to show you what to do, and absolutely no props until the very end for safety reasons, okay? Each speed controller is neatly tied up. Everything's how it should be. Okay, for the pillars, turn the quad upside down, and then take your pillar set and your screws, and then just what I want you to do is this is the easiest way, just screw it on, but don't tighten it. Do it like right up against it, but leave it loose, because if you tighten them, the pillars will be too stiff to get all of them in. So just do like hand tightening, maybe a little tighter. You can use your tool to get it just slightly tight. Okay, then flip it over, and this is what it should look like with all the pillars in right before you're ready to go into Libre Pilot and do your setup. After Libre Pilot, you will then put the top on, leaving all the screws loose, and then once the top's on and every screw's in, you can tighten it up, put your props on, and go ahead and fly it. When installing the props, the front left is going to be your clockwise motor. You can tell by the arrows, meaning it rotates clockwise. And the way to tell a clockwise versus a counterclockwise prop is, if you notice, the leading edge of the prop is slanted upward. So if it's slanted upward going clockwise, that is a clockwise prop. Look at this one. The slant is going to the left or counterclockwise, the higher slant. This is higher than this end, so therefore this is a counterclockwise prop. And so it's clockwise here, and one little trick is that both these propellers are the same. They're catty corner to each other, and these are the same. So you're going to do clockwise, clockwise, counter, and counter. When getting ready to install the props, it's going to be a very tight fit. So don't worry about it, just try to get it on enough to get the nuts on. Once you've got one twist of the nut, you can put your tool on it, and then that will push the prop down. It's a nice tight fit for smooth flying.